Hello and welcome. I'm glad you could join me for today's peaceful painting session.
And what could be more peaceful than the sound of the wind rustling through the dune grasses as you walk along the path to the beach? So stick around and I'll share my tips for painting this 15-minute study of a beach path using only 3 colors. I'll also share some useful tips for saving time and energy for those of you who are feeling a bit low today. Look out for the blue banners on screen for useful tips throughout the video. To save ourselves some time and energy, we're going to pre-mix our colors. So I'm looking at my reference photo for inspiration, and I'll mix together some white and phthalo blue. That would be a nice color for the water. And then I can take some of that mix and add a tiny amount of raw umber to that to desaturate the water slightly. And then we'll take some raw umber and a little bit of phthalo blue, mix those two together to get a really dark brownish color. And then I'm thinking raw umber and a little bit of white. That would be good for maybe the sand color, for the beach sand or some of the dunes maybe. And then we can take some of that mix of the raw umber and white, just a tiny amount, and we can add a little bit more white to that to make a very light brownish color for the lighter parts of the gum poles maybe. Those are a few colors to start with. I like to paint on some toned paper, but you can paint on any surface you have available. We're just using some diluted raw umber here just to sketch out a few very simple lines just to help us in our painting session a bit later on. And I've just got a line for the horizon, two lines for the path, and a little bit of a directional line for the way I want the dune grasses to grow. So we can get straight into blocking in the water and blocking in the beach path. And I'm using nice quick brush strokes here. I want to get this color down as quickly as possible. Remember, we're all about saving time and energy here. So I'm just going to block in the blue for the ocean and put a little bit of that darker blue at the top to create some distance. And then I'll use the raw umber mixed with white for the sand. Okay, we're going to add in our dune grasses now. So starting at the bottom with some raw umber, I'm just going to use very quick brush strokes again, and I'm flicking the brush up to create those grasses, to make the movement of the grasses. And I'm just going nice and quickly. No need to be a perfectionist about it. This is just a quick sketch that we're making. And we'll do the same on the other side. It's a little bit awkward on the other side because I'm right-handed, but you can always turn your paper around if you need to. So our dune grasses are looking a little bit flat, so we're going to add some form. So if you take a darker brown and just at the bottom make it look a little bit darker than at the top, that will give it some more form and make it look more realistic. We're going to take some of that dark brown and we're going to paint in the gum poles. Now, in order to maintain the realism, we have to keep perspective. So the gum poles at the end of the path will be shorter, and as they come towards us, they become longer. It's also important to keep those gum poles vertical and not paint them at an angle. So try and keep them vertical on your page. Now each gum pole will have a light part on the top of the pole and light down one side, and then it will be dark down the other side. So we're going to paint those bits in now. And we have to make sure that we light up the same side of each pole. So if we've decided that the light's going to come in from the right, like I've done in my sketch, then we need to make sure that the right hand side of every pole is painted lighter, and the same with the shadowed side, the darker side. And because we're not painting from a photograph today, this is just a painting from my imagination, so we can improvise as we go along. Now that all our dark bits are in and all the shadowed parts of the poles, it's time for us to blend some of these colours together. So I'm going to take a nice, soft, clean, dry brush, and I'm going to very gently just work on the poles, just mix the dark and the light side together very gently. And when we're blending, we're going to get some colour on our brush. We're going to pick up bits of paint. We're not going to clean the brush. We can use that paint that we pick up just to blur the line between the sand and the grass, because sand is very uneven and we want it to look like an uneven pathway, like in reality. We can even add some of that colour to the sand to give it some texture. Now we can take our lightest mix and we can make some highlights on the top of each pole and some highlights here and there in the sand as well. So a little fun detail to do is called sgraffito, which means scratching into the surface of your painting for texture. So I've taken a skewer here, but you could use a toothpick or the back of your paintbrush or any other sharp object, just to draw the lines in where the wires go between the poles. And remembering to keep the distance between the wires wider in the foreground, closest to the viewer, and closer together as you approach the water. And then we can go in with our raw umber and we can go along the lines here and there, adding some dark accents. Don't do it a solid line, just leave gaps in between to make it look more natural. And I think it would be fun to add a few scratch lines to the top of the dune grasses. It would look like the sun's catching them in that area. Well, we've got a couple of minutes left, just enough time to do a few finishing touches. I might paint in some grass at the bottom of each pole, maybe add a few shadows from the poles, from the light where the light's coming in, add some highlights to the top of my grass. Really, your imagination can take over at this point. Even you could add in a few birds in the horizon if you like. It's really up to you. Just make it your own. And there we go, 15-minute sketch done and dusted. I'm actually pleased with this sketch, and I think this one's going in my box for future paintings. It's time to rest now and put the brushes away until next time. Thank you so much for watching and for following along and for subscribing. If you're feeling inspired, you might want to try these tutorials too. And I'll see you in the next video.